it is also a dynamic process. So what does it do? It looks at generating and representing content, components, classes, or types of knowledge that see kindly don't do back channel talking. This that knowledge is domain specific or characterized by domain relevant features as defined by the user or the consumer of this knowledge, and it is eventually reinforced by a set of logical relationships that connect the content or various components or attributes of this knowledge system. So there are three things. There is an organized structure, which is also a dynamic process. We will see what these things actually mean. It looks at large amount of generation, representation, content related to knowledge. This knowledge could be very generic or it could be domain specific. And these components are many times reinforced by logical relationships that connect one entity to the another. Okay. Now, things to observe in any knowledge system. This is not IKS. This is general knowledge system. We will look at IKS little in detail shortly. Because it is organized and dynamic. When I say it is organized, it is more closed. So entry of other things, entry of other people into it is not easy. It is more closed than open. It is also partly open in the sense, otherwise, dynamism will not be there. Dynamism leads to changes, adaptation, replication, etc. Because it is dynamic, changes are possible, yet the changes are slow, very slow, eventually are sometimes very explosive. We call it reforms. For example, one example there are many examples. I'm sure you can come up with your own examples. One example one can look at is how the Protestant sect in the Christianity started. Little over 400, 500 years of modern Christianity eventually led to tremendous amount of protest, and then that's how the Protestant sect came about. Many independent knowledge systems exist and have been more competing than cooperating. This is one problem that we face. So it's not just IKS alone. There are other knowledge systems. There were many knowledge systems which have disappeared. They are no more there. A new type of knowledge system is already emerging. Unfortunately, with all these knowledge systems are more competing than cooperating. This is one problem that the world's humanity is facing, a tragedy. That is, every knowledge system, every culture tries to dominate and push, even if things are wrong, rather than learning from others and imbibing what is good in others. Okay. All said and done, knowledge systems are evolved entities, and they are characterized by behavior of people who use or are dependent on this. For example, when we see our friends and our colleagues, we can infer certain knowledge base on which they work, the way they dress, what they eat, what values they project, what issues they add importance to always. So, among the people you use, there are different flavors of people. Some are fundamentalists, some are practitioners, some are observers, some are skeptics, and many are mostly blind followers. Okay, this is apart from material aspect, which is based or related to knowledge system, which is also dynamic. For example, today, 100, years back, why 120, even 80 years back, none of us were bothered about petrol or diesel because we had no vehicle. Suddenly now we have multiple vehicles. We are all very much bothered about what is the price of diesel or petrol. In another few years, again that component will go away because everybody will switch to electric vehicles. Same thing with foreign exchange. Why is Indian government keeping such some 500 odd billion dollars of foreign American dollars with us? It has no value for us. So it is like a blocked asset. Okay, that could have funded all our education, healthcare free. But why is it we are keeping it? Suddenly it has become an important entity. Okay. So now and in future, more and more material aspects will start dominating how the knowledge system work and what is important. Now let's look at some practical examples and insights in various components of a knowledge system, so that understanding the components you will understand the entire knowledge system. Let's take the biggest concern of us, which is healthcare. So two dominant knowledge systems today are Ayurvedic knowledge system, which is predominantly from IKS, and allopathic medical knowledge system, which is predominantly from the Western knowledge system. This is in healthcare. There are others. There are homeopathy, Unnani, and Siddha medicine. So many other components are also there. It's not that these two are the only exclusive ones. Similarly, in education system, we have Gurukulas, we have Madrasa, we have convent, we have public schooling, and in public schooling system, we have state, CBSE, and so many. Similarly, in the economic part of it, we have barter system, commercial banking, post office banking, Islamic banking, money lenders. These are the economic knowledge systems. Many or most of these are consolidated over centuries of use, which are influenced by cultural, socio-economic, political, and in recent times, resource and environmental factors. For example, in the economic activity, even 30 years back, nobody was selling sand. Anybody wants sand can go pick up sand from the riverbed and use. Now we have started selling sand. It is a premium item. Similarly, even 20 years back, nobody was selling water. Today, water is one of the world's biggest business. So this is how many components in every knowledge system change, they get impacted by others, etc. etc. So now you can observe what is closed and open in this. For example, typically these components apart from the knowledge system is quite close. For example, when you go to Ayurvedic doctor, he will explicitly say that you should not take any antibiotics or any allopathy medicine. When you go to allopathy doctor, he will say don't take any Ayurvedic medicine. Okay, so this is how systems are closed. These are subsystems, but eventually the whole system also is closed like this. Some of them are open. They will say when you go to Ayurvedic doctor, he will say get a scan report. He may prescribe Ayurvedic medicine, but he will allow for an allopathic strategy to be used. So this is how openness and closeness in knowledge systems happen. Okay. So how do we understand knowledge system? All knowledge system exhibit expressions which are either explicit, implicit, or in a subtle manner. This knowledge system understanding is predominantly dominated by subtle expressions. Okay. For example, we meet each other and people say namaste. It's a very subtle expression indicating what our culture is, what our values are, etc. etc. Even though this practice was adopted by everybody when COVID happened and there was a banning of physical contact from one to another. Okay. So its characteristic can be seen the way society handles its economy, education, law and governance, gender and other equalities and inequalities. This is what constitutes the whole society. So the whole society runs on knowledge systems, which are continuously generated, refined, consolidated, many times discarded, etc. etc. For example, in my younger days, we used to have license for radio and bicycle. You had to register your radio in the post office and pay license fee for use of radio. Similarly, the bicycles used to have a license, okay, and you pay license fee for using the bicycle in the city to the corporation. That's gone now, okay. Now only you have license for motorcycle and other thing. Maybe after some time, like motorcycle, two wheelers license may go away. Only cars may remain. That's the way things change. Okay. So one can also infer from many socio-cultural and attitudinal aspects of its citizens their behavior, conduct, and ethos. For example, we have a festival called Vana Mahotsav where we celebrate trees, growth of trees. This is the only culture where growth of trees are worshipped, right? We will see why these things happen. Okay. Unfortunately, many aspects of knowledge system is linked with religious belief in all cases, either strongly or moderately or in a very subtle way. Okay, so in that case, we are really not 100% free people. Okay, as the famous Beatles, John Lennon said, I mean, nobody on earth is fully free because from birth to death we are fed with so many indoctrination, cultural imposition, etc., all that, good and bad both. Okay. So question is, which knowledge system is right? All knowledge systems have evolved over time: culture, geography, trade, and interaction. In fact, geography, trade, and interaction seem to have dominated the way knowledge systems operate. The degree of domination and interaction is some less, some more. In fact, some are lost over time. We have no idea some of the knowledge systems that have completely disappeared. For example, if you look at ancient civilizations like Machu Picchu in South America, we have no idea what their knowledge system was. Okay, now looking at Indus Valley civilization, many things we don't know about them. The residuals, of course, can be found amongst all of us. Okay, there have also been dramatic shifts from one knowledge system to another in the course of nations. Suddenly, certain nations, for example, Japan in 16th century suddenly decided to adopt large amount of Western knowledge system. Till then, it was the Buddhist, Shinto, and other flavors of that. Turkey did this in beginning of 20th century, just after beginning of last century. Turkey suddenly decided to adopt a Western knowledge system. North and South America for the last 400 years have been influenced by Western knowledge system, whereas for the previous 10,000 years it was all indigenous knowledge. China, Russia, and North Korea have done it. China completely switched from Buddhist influenced knowledge system in 1950 to a communist socialist pattern. Russia did that 2 3 times. North Korea, all of you know what is going on. Okay, many have adapted or reformed. Okay, not that complete imposition. Many have adapted to add value to their knowledge system, lest it is found redundant. For example, all of you, I'm sure, even among the participants, you have already changed the type of dress you are wearing. Many of you wear jeans and t-shirts and other things, and you have adapted to that because you find it more convenient to maintain, and particularly hostel students, jeans is the must because you don't have to wash throughout your career. Okay, you buy once when you join the college, and you throw it out when you graduate after 2 or 3 years. So these are the kind of things that influence adaptation and modification. Not necessarily all adaptation is for good reasons. For example, in Bangalore, you find large number of people have switched over to fast food. Large number of people have switched over to cereals as breakfast because making idli dosa takes time. Okay, so all these things can be seen every day in our life. Okay, many knowledge systems are outdated, rigidly deployed, mostly using undemocratic forces and violently, like what's happening in Middle East, what's happening in Nigeria, what's happening in Afghanistan, what's happening in North Korea. All these are not accepted by everybody, but it is imposed. And whenever there is an imposition, it's all violence. Okay. So, which knowledge systems actually operate now? There are many knowledge systems. Okay, many of us are not even clear what we are using. We'll see that. Only very isolated societies have maintained their original knowledge system and have little or no interaction with other knowledge system. For example, many in Andaman, Amazon, all that, have their own knowledge system, quite isolated from the rest, and they have been maintaining it like this for the last 50,000 years. 50,000 years, okay? A great majority, however, use two to three different knowledge systems for different purposes. For example, we all follow Western education systems, typically universities, IITs, but our food and dress and living style is Indian knowledge system. So, most societies today live with a blended form. That ratio of blending, okay. So, what are please no back channel talking, please. Please, no talking. So, the most dominant knowledge system today is the Western or the modern knowledge system, sometimes called developed economy knowledge system, all that. This so called Western knowledge system is mainly the original Greco Roman model. And as we see it, most prevalent either in full or more than 50% of all countries in the world today. There are other knowledge systems like the Oriental, Arabic, Middle East, Indian. So, what we need to look at is knowledge systems, while appearing to be characterized by historical, religious aspects, it is not so. In many cases, cultural, ideological, and technological factors have overruled. Okay. So, which knowledge systems now exist? What one calls the Western knowledge system, WKS, predominantly found in Europe, North America, and China, covers about 50% of the world population. Its other name is modern scientific system. It also relates to 75% of the current economy. So, one of the reasons the Western knowledge system dominate, like what is happening today, I am using internet and all of you are logged on through a server with internet connection. We are using modems, we are using audio and video transmission, which is predominantly modern scientific, which came from the West. Okay. But what is most dominant part is the Western knowledge system has captured the economy. 75% of the global money is related to Western knowledge system. There are other knowledge systems like the AKS, Arabic knowledge system, predominantly found in Middle East, North Africa, little in the Indian subcontinent, Central Asia, Indonesia, and Malaysia. It covers about 30% of the world population, but it controls 70% of the world's petroleum economy. And since the main economy of every country is highly dominated by linkages with petrol and diesel, this knowledge system also has gained importance. The third knowledge system, which is prevalent, is the Indian knowledge system. It's predominantly found in the Indian subcontinent, quite a lot in Southeast Asia, Tibet, Japan. It covers about 25% of the world's population. It also relates to 25% of the current economy. Okay. The fourth one is called the indigenous knowledge system, which exists in all parts of the world, more so in India, Africa, and South America. It covers only 5% of the world population, but this indigenous knowledge system is the predecessor to all other knowledge systems. What we are today is because we were using indigenous knowledge system about 3 4,000, 5,000 years back, and slowly we have allowed other knowledge system like IKS to slowly change this, and now IKS dominates in us, even though many components of IKS actually have come from the indigenous knowledge system. Okay. Note, no society now lives exclusively on one knowledge system, except perhaps the indigenous knowledge system. Many live with a blended version of two, like most of us. We have a combination of IKS and Western knowledge system. Three, many Many people, particularly the Muslims in India, have a combination of Western knowledge system, Indian knowledge system, and the Arabic knowledge system. Okay. In some rare cases, there is a mixture of four. So, what are we focusing on? It is clear that currently in India, we all lead a life of blended knowledge system dominated by IKS and considerable Western knowledge system. The formal education, economy, and industry is dominated by WKS. It is here we are questioning what IKS is and attempting to put more IKS into our existing lifestyle, as it is clear that we are now facing more negative issues with overload of Western knowledge system. For example, the Western education is not able to give jobs to everybody. The allopathic healthcare is unsustainable because of Western knowledge system. Cancer has become prevalent, so there is also tremendous amount of problems with antibiotics. We are one of the world's largest population with what is called AMR, antimicrobial resistance, meaning slowly antibiotics has stopped working for Indians. That is because Indians have developed resistance to antibiotics because of abuse by antibiotics. For everything, for simple cold and cough, we use antibiotics. For everything viral infection, we use antibiotics. See, antibiotics means antibiotic. It is against bacterial infection. It cannot handle viral infection. So this is our problem. In fact, we are going to face a problem in another 5 to 10 years, as bad as COVID, where large number of people who fall sick cannot be cured by antibiotics. It is already happening. Okay, AMR resistance has set in very big, and it is a serious problem. Okay. Similarly, pollution. See, in indigenous knowledge, there is nothing like waste. Nothing like waste. Waste is predominantly a creation of the industrial society or the Western knowledge. Okay. So we will see what is Western knowledge and little of AKS also. This is something evolved over 3,000 years. So it's not a something that can be wished away. It has evolved over 3,000 years. In the socio-culture geography of Greece, Rome, Middle East, what is called the Fertile Crescent, all factors have played significant role in shaping this. All these have one book that is sacred. They are monotheist, which does not include female and child gods. Okay. Its main character is belief in redemption and death, and the moral compass grounded in belief in only one God, which is male, and in one book. Whether they are Jews, Christians, or Muslim, they follow one book, and they are called the Abrahamic religion. Okay. What is interesting with this is they have been institutionalized very early. For example, 230, 240 years after Jesus Christ died, the Vatican was started. Okay. And Vatican is the sole authority. Okay. Rebelling or questioning of tenets is not permitted and results in excommunication or death. For example, Jesus Christ was crucified simply because he opposed the way Jews were operating the religion and the knowledge system then, particularly the temple in Jerusalem. Okay, and because of his killing, Christianity sprang up. Okay, the tenets in these are very harsh, cruel, and very acquiring in nature, grabbing everything. For example, these say there is no heaven for non followers, eye for an eye, death to the kafirs or the non believers. These are the kind of tenets that are there in this knowledge system. Just look at this, just before things happened. This is 8th century place called Carthage in North Africa. Uh, they had female gods. Okay, it was then by third century BC one of the richest city in the world, uh, and eventually Romans went and sacked the Carthage, and After all that, eventually in 200 years, idea of female god, everything went away. Okay. So it's not that culturally it was not there before. It was there. There were local gods everywhere. Then it became monotheist. Okay. Look at this. How this, where this Western knowledge system, the Old and the New Testament, the Arabic, all of them started here around, built themselves here. Okay. So the much of the Old Testament history is here. The New Testament history is here. The much of the Arabic knowledge system is here, influenced by these, so on and so forth. Okay. Whereas what is Indian knowledge system? This is something evolved over 5,000 years. So in terms of time, Indian knowledge system is the only oldest knowledge system now surviving. Okay. And in the socio-cultural geography of what is called Bharat, that is Indian subcontinent, all factors are played. There is no one book. So there are multiple books, and they are polytheists, which includes both female and child god. So highly non-individualistic. You can never ask who is the originator of this. No. Whereas in the other knowledge system, you can say who started this. You have an individual for that. Its main character is belief in rebirth and the moral compass grounded in two terms called dharma and karma. Okay. It has either not been institutionalized or has multiple institutions along different philosophies, thus multiple parallel authority. Each can suit oneself or move or even disown. Even non-believers are part of the system. Atheists are part of the system. Okay. Rebelling or questioning of tenets is permitted and very frequent. That's why so many splinter groups, so many cults have evolved, so many parallel gods. If I don't like the color of the god, I can find another god whose color I like, or whatever, right? The tenets in these are very gentle, bountiful, and very giving in nature. They are not acquiring in nature, they are not very harsh. That is because the culture, socio-cultural geography in which this evolved was bountiful. It's not like the desert where there was no water, there are no trees, so you can't have Anamahotsav. And you can see how this has been influenced. These are the kind of visions with which the Indian knowledge system evolved. You see, can you find something more beautiful than this? This is at the just before the base camp of Everest. Such beautiful things. So when you find exceedingly beautiful things around you, your mind is at peace and you have a very gentle outlook. Okay. So when we say what of India that is Bharat, why that has become important? So just take a look how nice it was. Okay. Take a look at India around 200 C, which is exactly around 2000 years back. Okay. And we will also see what the global situation was. This was a mature situation. So another 1500 to 2000 years back it started. It mainly centered around two things: natural resources and products. And the products came from work of skill. And it was sharing, which was basically economic trade. But this trade also led to mixing of culture, language, knowledge, more than mixing, transfer, translation, misrepresentation, and sometimes even stealing. We'll come to that. Okay, so just look at it 2000 years back. This is how India was looking at. You can see here the west coast of India, east coast, but west coast was packed with people from Rome, Greece, Middle East, Syria, Eastern Africa, Central Asia. Everybody was busy coming here and trading. India was one of the world's, India, not one of the, India was the richest part of the world. Okay. This is 2000 years back. This is about three and a half, 4,000 years back. How the Indus Valley civilization started. Tremendous trade, both on land and on sea. It was not, they were all the time trading on the sea by hugging the coast. It's only much later that they started crossing directly. Okay. So this is how it was about 4,000 years back. This is the time around 4,500 years back that things started happening, what we now know as IKS. So this is what's called the Golden Road. You will see only one path going to China, but there are unbelievable. Apparently, in Greek Roman history, they write that just at the beginning of monsoon winds, at this point here, about 200 ships would be waiting to cross to India, various parts of India. You can have on the west coast every 30 to 40 miles there used to be a port. Okay, and you will also see an interesting thing. This is how it was connected. All these people would come to West Coast. All these people would come here. Sometimes they go up to here and exchange. Many times they cross the Deccan Plateau here and trade. So you will see near Arikamedu, which is close to Pondicherry now, you will also see a very big remnant of a Roman warehouse, huge warehouse. Okay, and this is how that's how the monsoon came. Mausam is trade winds. So April to September, people would come from here to here. November to February, they would go back. September, October, November, they would stay here during monsoon. Doing this, is how it was. Such and it's not a joke. You can see here. Look at Oxford Atlas of World History. This is the Academy and Empire around 500 BCE, extending all the way to the west coast of western part of India. And they were ruling here. They were ruling here. And how did they get money? You will see here. This is the money for this empire. Maximum came portion of small portion of the Indus Valley they were occupying, but they got maximum money from their revenue. So it was so rich. That's the reason everybody came here to loot. Okay, this is Darius inscription. Uh, Continuous listing country. He also says that he's from a Persian, son of Persian, and Aryan, having Aryan lineage. This is how the Aryan migration came. There was no Aryan invasion. And something very important you see here. So this was the world then. You will see this portion, little of North Africa, just the Egyptian Nile River Valley, then the Levant, the Fertile Crescent here, and you will see surprisingly another patch like this, huge amount of patches. This is Ceylon is very important because Ceylon used to be this. You can see here, people from the eastern part of the world would come here, people from the western part would come here. So this is what is called the first globalization. Okay. What this map shows is this shows one can guess this is Sicily, this is Italy, this is Rome. This was typically the Roman Empire, huge Roman Empire with portions of North Africa. But there is no Roman Empire here. Roman Empire was around here. They had even occupied England, but they didn't go to Ireland. The Germany up to Poland and Hungary was occupied. And of course, the today modern Israel and Egypt. This is where the Carthage was. All this fine. But what is surprising is this map is a place which says where all Roman gold coins have been found. For example, in Kerala and in Narikamedu, Pondicherry, little near Odisha, a lot of Roman gold coins are even found today. If you dig for months together carefully, you will find one or two Roman gold coins now, even in Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and eastern part of India. So, why did Roman gold coins come here? Rome was trading. Rome was trading, bringing lot of stuff, taking spices. spices, ivory, silk, cotton, uh, beads, uh, including lion and tiger. They were taking lion and tiger from here so that in the Roman gladiators would fight lions and tigers. This is how trade. So in exchange, they would give only gold coins because they had nothing else to give from Rome. So that is how so much of gold coins have been found in Roman gold coins in India. That's the reason why it was very rich. Okay. So question to ask are knowledge systems foolproof? Are there no justifications for correction and changes? While many knowledge systems claim an element of sacredness, infallibility, God's command, etc., practice over years have shown that all knowledge systems are inadequate for various reasons. Changing context makes it harder to adhere to. Many tenets are never tested, and when done so or questioned, they fail. Only hope is if there is self correction, adaptation, change, or reforms. If these fails, you need to abandon the knowledge system. So we'll see some dramatic conflict within the knowledge system. We also experienced it. I will. All of you know Galileo Galilei. He was born in 1564 in Pisa, but died in a place called Arcetri in Italy in 1642. What happened is in 1632, he wrote a book called Dialogue Concerning Two Chief World Systems, which said by his telescope observation, Earth is revolving around the sun, okay, which is called heliocentric view. That is, helios means sun, sun centric view. But that was opposed by Pope Urban VIII, who was head of the Vatican. His idea that because the Bible says Earth is the center, sun revolves around it. So his view was treated as anti-Christian and he was put to death because he was already famous. They didn't kill him. They said, from 1632 till you die, you are under house arrest. So that's how Galileo died eventually 10 years after that. Very similar thing happened in another seminar on Big Bang done in same Vatican in November 22nd, 2001. So you have to be very careful. All knowledge systems can be very rigid and very subjective. Conflicts and contradictions in every knowledge system is common. For example, we had it in India when Americans landed on the moon. Immediately, everybody here said, "No, no, no, this is not the actual moon we were referring. There is another moon near sun, so no human being can land on that. That is moon god, etc., etc." So whatever moon we were saying and was being worshipped all these years was simply disowned because the moment Americans landed there on moon. Okay, so such is the situation with every knowledge system, possibly with every component. So that's why questioning and making objective and observable justification is very important. So this is an interesting painting of Galileo being put to death. He was trying to defend his idea that it is sun centric, whereas the entire Vatican had organized to show that it is earth centric, etc. etc. Okay. Same things happen even now. You see, in December 2024, all of you will know that Magnus Carlsen was prevented from contesting in the rapid chess championship event because the rules say you cannot wear jeans. See, such a silly rule, and you have got rid of the world's greatest chess player. If he had contested, I doubt if Gukesh could have become the world champion. Okay, so this is the way it is. So it can happen in any situation, any place, anywhere on some silly matters, and a large amount of formal knowledge system that we follow does indeed have silly rules. They appear silly by today's context. Maybe 100 years back when it was formed, or 1,000 years back when it was formed, it may have been very valuable. Today, no. Okay. What is the main reason for the decline of Indian knowledge system is while Indian knowledge system was suppressed by the Arabic knowledge system because they took control of Delhi in the 12th century till 18th century. They were continuously suppressing, trying to impose an Arabic knowledge system. And till 18th century, it was still vibrant because people locally were managing, and the examples abound in much of South India. One of the reasons why South India is better than the rest of the country socially, economically, industrially, culturally is because we were not suppressed so much by the Arabic knowledge system, unlike the North Indian. Okay. Of course, the real damage to IKS came from the British colonial rule from 1825 onwards. Just see this. This is the original read, absorb, and discuss. I have traveled across the length and breadth of India and I have not seen one person who is a beggar, who is a thief. Such wealth I have seen in the country, such high moral values, people of such caliber that I do not think we would ever conquer this country unless we break the very backbone of this nation, which is our spiritual and cultural heritage. And therefore, I propose that we replace our old and ancient education system, our culture. For if the Indians think all that is foreign and English is good and greater than their own, they will lose their self esteem, their native culture, and they will become what we want them, a truly dominated nation. This is Macaulay in the British Parliament defending Macaulay's education system to be imposed on India. This was the idea. His main idea was not to give education. His main idea was to break India. Okay. So many other things have happened, including saying that I have no knowledge of either Sanskrit or Arabic, but he thinks English is better than Sanskrit and Arabic. This is the way it has gone. You see here how they were treating us, attitude with which our pre-independence Macaulay knowledge system was planned and executed. Royal Simla Club, no dogs are Indians. They were treating us on par with dogs. So, what do knowledge systems do? Basically, knowledge systems have the following: the knowledge systems relate to a culture, cultural practices reinforce and add things to knowledge systems. The knowledge systems also provide economic value, it provides an identity. So, when you, for example, you go to North India, everybody says he's a Madrasi. They think whole of South India is Madras as long as people wear a dhoti. Okay. Anybody wearing dhoti is Madrasi, which is very inappropriate because Madras is not South India. I mean, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, today Telangana also, Karnataka, Kerala is significantly different. Even though one common dress all men have is dhoti. Okay. And all these things add wisdom. Their wisdom is provided in the knowledge system. For example, certain cultural practices, whether we like it or not, the practice of bowing your head and touching the feet of elders for some various reasons may not be very relevant today, but those are part of the practices that have been accumulated. This is true of every knowledge system. Every knowledge system has a culture, every knowledge system has an identity, every knowledge system provides economic value, they have their own wisdom. Specific to Indian knowledge system, so you have core and related dharmas. Okay, it completely follows the daily practices, observance of certain rituals, etc., etc. It also has a utilitarian and welfare aspects which adds to the economy. For example, let's look at the Indian marriage. What does the Indian marriage do? Indian marriage gives tremendous amount of value to economics because it is a very big economic activity. It may be a social activity for the family, the bride and the bridegroom's family, but for the society, it is a very big economic activity, right? And the marriage is performed both on oral and written traditions, certain rituals, certain practices, some mantra, tantra, whatever, right? Yeah. And each of these vary. You have tremendous amount. So the way the marriage is conducted in North India is slightly different, why slightly significantly different from the way marriage is conducted in South India. And within South India, different cultures have different type, but all of them eventually conduct a marriage. And in a marriage, it's a very big economic activity. Okay, so this is how every knowledge system survives. Every knowledge systems survive by giving an identity, having a corpus of knowledge, both oral and written, tremendous amount of diversity of forms and cultures, which also gives, when it say welfare, it also is a huge economic activity. So there is a supply chain. For example, you want to give a meal on a banana leaf. So somebody has to grow the banana leaf. Somebody has to transport it to the wedding hall. Then there are various items that can sit only on that is prepared, etc., etc. So somebody has to grow, somebody has to market, somebody has to process. This is the way the society lives. Okay, but all knowledge systems are unsustainable. The degree of unsustainability varies. The real sustainable knowledge system, now one example is where in Brazil. For example, this is a community of about 100 population in Brazil, in the rainforest. And you can see the thick rainforest has not been destroyed. Only this part has been cleared out. And you can see here, there are no walls. Every family lives below this, and common space for all the family is here. So there is no personal rooms, personal living room, personal garage, personal car. That's the reason why it is sustainable. So in this population of 100, when the population becomes 130, 140, about 30, 40 of them will move another 2 miles away and build another thing like this and live till the population becomes around 100, 110. Okay, and they have been living like this for the last few tens of thousands of years. That's why they are sustainable. Do we have that? Yes, look at this. This is tsunami. And in tsunami, you will see the water goes back first, and after many minutes, it will come back. So when tsunami occurred, you will see people going and fetching because the sea waves suddenly go back. Many fishes are left. They are unable to go back with the water, so they are caught here. So many people have gone to fetch fishes without realizing that in the exposed beach, after a few minutes, this tsunami wave will come. This is what happened in India, in Tamil Nadu. When the sea receded, many people thought it was a golden opportunity to grab. Within few minutes, maybe few tens of minutes, you had a tsunami doing that. Now you look at this here, bigger tsunami happened in Andamans, where not a single local population died. That is the tribal population, indigenous. This is the North Sentinel where huge tsunami occurred. Why they didn't die is, in the indigenous knowledge system, the rule is whenever the water goes back unnatural, what people should do is run up the hill, climb a tree. This is the knowledge that they have. So, not a single local tribal died in Andamans. Even the Andamans had bigger tsunami than what happened in Tuticorin and Nagapattinam and other places. Okay. The other problem that happened was American missionary was killed when he went there. His attempt to convert them to Christianity. The problem was not with Christianity. The problem was that these people for the last 50,000 years have lived in isolation with us, and they would not have immunity for even flu, forget about other diseases. So, contact with anybody like us, they will get flu and all of them will die because they don't have immunity for that. This is what happened in South America when Christopher Columbus and his followers went to South America. They carried with them typhoid, cholera, jaundice, syphilis, gonorrhea, all plague, all modern diseases they took with them in the ship. They were immune, so nothing happened to them. But when they spread it to South American native population, millions of people died. That's how small European population was able to conquer the whole of South America. You have an indigenous population in India, plenty of them in Andaman Islands. Okay, so many of them. Nicobaris, other this thing, Java, Shompens, Ongis, Andamanis, Sentilis, so many tribes, all of them living there independent of each other for the last 50,000 years. Okay. In fact, today there is a problem because you look at the Shompen tribe, they live like this even today. This is their hut. That's how they live. Go and fish, catch things, grab something and live. And today this is that Greater Nicobar Island, where this island is being converted to modern another version of Singapore, and it is going to affect these people. Okay, same happened. Africa was filled with indigenous population. The entire Africans had tremendous amount of indigenous civilization before the European and Asiatic invasion. Now you see here how Africa looks. Almost half of it is Christians, half of top half is Muslims. That's all. All these indigenous forms have been completely overruled. Okay? And people think about USA. USA is one of the world's worst democracy. See, they became independent in 1776, and only in 1961 women were allowed to vote with some restriction. All restrictions were removed only in 1971. So almost after 200 years, they allowed women to vote. Whereas we allowed women to vote on the very first election that happened in India. And you will also see how they treat. See, this is in South Africa. This is the main road. This part, you can see, even having a swimming pool, all that. Whereas here is a grown slum. This is where all the blacks live. This is where all the whites live, and this road would divide. Even now, some large localities in South African cities are like this. Okay. So you see here in 1960, between 1954 and 68, you will see here in America, wash basin for drinking water. This is for white, this is for non-white color. And a very strange case which was caught. You see here, black people are swimming in the hotel swimming pool, and this is the owner of the swimming pool. Just because black people are swimming, he's pouring acid into the water. This is the owner, white owner. This is how America was. And you can see in Australia, this is the first time an Australian Aborigine, he is also distantly related to the Andamani people who have been living there for last 50 to 60,000 years, maybe even 1 lakh years. But now the white people have taken over. Okay. He was using phone. You see how dominating technologies, even the indigenous population start using technology because it's very convenient. Okay. So why economy wins over sustainability? You'll see here, I know three trades, I speak three language, I fought for 3 years, I have three children and no work for 3 months, but I want only one job. That's the reason why, even though current knowledge systems are unsustainable, they are highly economically oriented. So people will now say, I want to be comfortable, I want to make money, next generation can suffer. I don't know, because I suffered because of my previous generation. Let next generation suffer because of me, but I want to be comfortable. That's the reason the Western knowledge system dominates, because Western knowledge system is unsustainable, but it has a huge economic component. Okay. So, in conclusion, IKS is important and many useful aspects have neither been given its due nor evaluated effectively in the context of our lives. IKS has to contend and compete with other knowledge systems, many of which are coercive and are seductive. For example, fast food, very convenient, internet, inevitable, jeans and t-shirt, it's almost a universal you know, dress material. And today, modern maths, technology, and life sciences, particularly biological and pharma, now rule the roost. Almost each of you have taken a crocin tablet whenever you had some, headache or some fever, right? So the question is, where, when, and how much of IKS to be positioned in the gamut of life. Today, we live a blended life. Can we incorporate more aspects of Indian knowledge system in our life, which also includes in our, industry, in our culture, in our food, in our dress habits, whatever, right? Because Indian knowledge system is less unsustainable than any other knowledge system. The only knowledge system that is sustainable is indigenous knowledge, which we cannot go back because cannot live in a forest. We have no forest to live. But among the other knowledge system, maximum number of sustainable components are there in the IKS, which means IKS is least unsustainable of the lot. Can we now, because sustainability and climate problem is the number one problem for the world, can we incorporate more aspects of IKS to make our life and others' life better? That's the thing. Of course, NEP is made it a policy. There are problems, for example, of putting IKS. How many will get a job if they know IKS well? How many students want to take up courses in IKS? There is a serious shortage of trained faculty in IKS, and it will increase the burden of additional courses on students, which are already a burdensome. So we have to address all this. There are some references. A lot of books have come on what is called IKS, but my feeling is all these are, you see here, Indian knowledge system for sustainable well-being, etc. All the traditional knowledge. So a lot of books are there, but my understanding of these books, I also know some of the authors. The problem is all of them start with Indian knowledge resources, which are the corpus of oral and written traditions, majority of which are related to scriptures and are in Sanskrit in base. So Sanskrit has become a big barrier to learn. Secondly, modern life is dominated by STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And unless you counter that or balance it more than countering with adequate IKS, it's very difficult to understand IKS well. But there are parallel references which are very useful to read, and I suggest few of them. One is this. This is a book which is published 10 years back, but it has 70 million copies have been sold in 65 different languages. It tells us about humanity, know about world and humans across generations for the last 2 million years, how humans have been and why they evolved like this, which also relates to how what kind of knowledge systems they were using. And in particular, this is one of the best reading in the world to know about India, know about Indians, and some amazing things about IKS. This is a very good proof. This is a book released only 3 months 4 months back, September 2024. It tells how for 1000 years India was the world's dominant region, including the country. And there is a special focus by government has Ministry of Education has a special division on Indian knowledge systems, which give funding for activity seminars, etc., etc.